Back again. Yeah, I thought I'd do these like as separate videos because I don't want to confuse one theory with another. Um, these are my streams of thoughts from 20 years ago as a 23-year-old man. Um, let's see. This theory is the sun, right? The sun, our sun. So let me just jump right into it. Um, this was June 18th, 2004. Um, the sun, star or planet on fire, either way, it's still a thermocouple. So, I mean, I was big on magnets back then. So our friend, the sun, comes to shine every day we wake up and waves goodbye every time most of us go to sleep. What is the sun? Where did it come from? Why does it shine like that? Well, I have my own take on this theory. Most scientists on this planet in the past and present believe that the sun is a star, but this star is doing nothing but fusion created by hydrogen atoms. This very well may be true, but I find it a little hard to swallow down all the way. There are a few problems with that theory. It is believed by some that the sun is actually in rotation just as all the other nine planets are. The nine planets rotate around the sun. It is believed that the sun is also rotating around something else also, but uh, something else around something else also. What it is, I have no idea. But I do think that every planet is rotating around the sun using a magnetic line of flux. Why do I say this? Well, let me explain. This, by the way, can can be show with a simple experiment. If you take iron fillings and put it on a nice sized piece of cardboard, make sure it's spread around pretty good, poke a hole dead center in the piece of cardboard and run a copper wire through the hole, energize the copper wire with a current, and you will see the fillings organize themselves into rings with the lines of magnetic flux not touching each other. The appearance is like a bullseye target. Apply this to our solar system. See the resemblance? Of course you do. Now, what does this mean? Could the sun contain magnetic energy just through the fusion of hydrogen atoms? Not according to our science. You would need some sort of metal core within the sun to create a thermocouple magnet, which I think the sun just happens to be. I believe that the sun is a planet on fire with a metallic core causing a humongous thermocouple magnet holding nine planets in its magnetic lines of flux. So, how did this fire occur, you lunatic? You're probably asking yourselves, well, I figured that the sun was once a planet all alone by itself. Its atmosphere contained highly flammable gases. My guess is that it actually was a pretty good place to live. That's what planets usually are. But it would be my guess that it had an enormous amount of magnetic pull and a meteor crashed straight into it, starting the biggest fire we've seen today. This huge, massive fire grew intensively hot and managed to burn brightly. What this inadvertently caused was a huge thermocouple magnet, which just happened to attract other planets. Sorry. The magnetic lines of flux came into play here. First, Mercury came into the closest line of magnetic flux, using the flux as well as a centripetal force to keep it from crashing into the sun. Venus came along and did the same thing, took the second line of flux as well as a different speed of centripetal force, and Earth was the third, and so on and so on. We arrive at 9 planets, which proves that the sun is one heck of a thermocouple magnet. This is why I think that the sun just might be a planet on fire. Other stars might be the exact same thing. You might wonder how some galaxies have more than one sun. Apply my theory, and you might have the answer all along. Let's face it, this is just a theory, and I have no problem with being proven wrong in every aspect. There's nothing wrong with being mistaken, but there is something wrong with stubborn assumptions and just statements that are founded on a shot in the dark guesses. The black hole theory. Ah, the black hole. What the heck is this thing? Does it even have a purpose existing? Why does it have the power to pull everything, including light? Well, let's go into this. Hopefully, before you've read this, you've taken a nap or something to where you are well rested. Keep in mind, I'm not a physicist or chemist or an astrologist. I'm just a young guy, 22 years old, writing what I think. Now, the black hole, from what I understand, it so far is just a dead star. I've heard scientists refer to it as a field that is collapsing all matter around it, that it's just a huge gravitational field. But since I think gravity is bogus anyway, I'll give you my take on it. Um, what I actually think is that the black hole is indeed a phenomenon. I think the power of its pull comes from a strong, dense magnetic field using vortex force to pull everything around it into the magnetic source. Where does this lead to if you fly into it? I've heard scientists say that it will just crush you like a tin can. Others say it will just pull you and you'll implode or explode. What I think is that it actually leads somewhere, a point in space and time across the universe, or maybe just across the galaxy. Okay, now I know some of you that are reading this are calling me names right now. I don't blame you at all because I sat in class coming up with this just today, 6/18/04. So what proof do I to back up this crazy idea? You really want to know? Of course you do. That's why you're reading this. Now let's come back to Earth for a minute to let me try and break it down. Now, what is a vortex by its definition and what it does? Well, all you have to do is go to any toilet nearest you and flush it. That is the simplest explanation on the basic principle of how a vortex functions. Now let's break down the physical mechanics of it. By my definition and observation, it appears that anywhere there is a whole lot of mass, an event occurs to where a vortex might start up. What is a catalyst? I'm not sure, but it could very well be magnetic in nature. Take our deadly unwanted friend, the tornado, for instance. Here's a thing that comes from basically nowhere. In the air, there are massive amounts of clouds and other molecules and stuff. Somehow the catalyst creates reaction to the air and begins to increase the speed of airflow in a 360-degree rotation. This rotation gets faster and faster, creating a vortex. Now, what you see on on the television is actually the clouds and dust mixing together and touching the ground. Looks wicked, but cool. Nothing really good can come from this vortex, but it appears that if there is mass around it, that what this does is speed up 360 degrees and creates a pull that sucks you until you get uh, to the center of the pull. After that, the vortex no longer needs you. Its job is done. What it does to transport mass from one place to another. Oh, what it does is transport mass from one place to another. Now, the power and integrity of the mass being transported will determine whether or not you will be ripped into shreds or your survival of this event. It's like flushing the toilet using the 360-degree spin. It increases speed, which condenses mass to a certain point. That way, it is easier and quicker to transport. After that, you end up at the center of the pole, which happens to be another location, just like your friend in the toilet. And the mass is returned back to normal, so to speak. Pressure from the vortex is relieved after you've reached its center. So this is what I think of the black hole. How can you see this? Well, the matter that surrounds the black hole produces an illumination looking like the aura. This illusion looks like it's spinning vortex style, just like I said it would. I'm sure someone said this before I did, but I guess I'm just restating it. So, what is the black hole after all my talking? I believe it might be a doorway to another universe or perhaps a shortcut to grandma's house. The point is that from my explanation, we should know that this vortex definitely leads somewhere that exists on a plane of existence. After all, a vortex can't lead to just nowhere, it has to arrive somewhere. Just a thought to leave you with. I double dare you to fly into one sometime. It is also my belief that if there is a black hole here, there is perhaps a way to get back home. And if someday one of our ships so happens to get caught in a black hole, this will act as an instruction guide. If you do not want to be sucked into a black hole or perhaps any other vortex, you must outweigh the force with a vortex with centripetal force. Centripetal force is the opposition to a vortex. So if a vortex is spinning clockwise, I suggest full engines and turn your craft around the op and the opposite the vortex by traveling as fast as you can counterclockwise. Just something to consider. So apparently, this was two theories in one. One was the black hole theory, and this other one is just the sun. So I may need to split this up into two different documents, but that's kind of wow. I said what I said. 22 years old. I was 20. I thought I was 23. I was 22. My birthday's in December, so I mean, you know, 22 years old.